I've looked through the materials you sent, and I have to say, it's impressive. We like it and we like you. We are definitely interested in this possibilities. Jackson's heart leaped. He nearly leaped to right out of his chair. Impressive. We like it and we like you. Wow. Then his head caught up. Hang on. Did she just say definitely, possibly? Wasn't that sort of like saying for sure, maybe? We think Angel's clothes and fur could sit very comfortably on our shelf, Miss Waters was saying. Just 2 points. You need to supply us on a national basis, of course. And we would want it to be an exclusive arrangement. Jackson's heart stopped. National. National, exclusive. National distribution. That would mean he'd either have to ship his product clear across the country, which would be impossible because part of his whole thing was their freshness and the emphasis on locally grown ingredients, or he'd have to set up not one or two, but at least a dozen separate production sites, which would take an enormous investment, which was completely out of the question, and exclusive. Pull out of all of his existing client stores. Turn his back on all those relationships. It hurt even to think about it. Okay, he said, his heart racing desperately, hoping that she couldn't see how rattled he was. See, I was hoping to start out going into stores in 4 states, maybe 5. I mean, that's what we're geared for at the moment. I understand, she said, but you understand we're a national trade, providing only the purest, only the best in these 5 states over here, but not in those 5 states over there. Well, would that be fair to our customers? Jackson felt his face flush. Would that be a rhetorical question? He wanted to say, but he bit it back. Instead, he just sighed. Silently, he hoped. No, of course, I see your point, but I don't see how. He stopped. How did he plan to finish that sentence? The silence in the room felt positively chilly. He had to say something, but he didn't dare explain his actual situation. Revenue from those early clients had allowed him to take over an old out-of-business diner with his own industrial kitchen. He had built out his pet food line and extended his sales to stores across the state. To extend that reach farther to cover 3 states, well, parts of 3 states, he'd had to set up a whole new separate production facility in the next state over so he could keep to his standards of freshness and local supply. But setting up and running a new plant from scratch was a lot harder than he expected. The financing he'd gotten to do it was drowning him. The bank had been patient for a year, but now he had to bring his account current or they would call the loan and shut down his operation. A week from today, there was no way under the sun he could come up with the cash. But if he could show up with a large purchase order from a major national company, he was betting that would halt the process and keep his doors open. A contract with Miss Waters' company, in other words, might just save him from going under. And at that thought, an idea slipped into his mind, so quietly that it took him a moment to realize it was sitting there waiting for him. I understand what you're saying, he said. That makes sense. I see that, of course, to scale up on the level, I'd need some assistance. For the first time since his meeting had begun, Miss Waters looked ever so slightly taken off balance. Assistance? Well, said Jackson, the entire continental United States, that's a good deal of territory. Our whole thing is fresh and local. That's more or less the heart of the brand you'd be featuring on your shelves. We need to put it in place a network of kitchens, production centers. We have several now. He had 2, barely, to supply nationwide. We need to set up, a dozen more around the country. I'd expect a dozen at least. That'd take a little financing. He tried to say this all in an entirely neutral, casual tone. Oh, sure, a dozen plants across the country. What was he planning to do anyway? A little financing? Just saying the words nearly gave him a heart attack. I don't mean you'd provide actual funding, he added. That would have to come from my own sources, obviously. But I've never gone into anything on this scale before. The only way it would work, I expect, would be with someone big, someone like Smith & Banks, underwriting it. Guaranteeing the loan, I mean. Miss Waters regarded him with an appraising look. Right, well, I can certainly run that past the corner office. See what they say. But to be honest, Mr. Hill, I don't promise they'll be friendly about the idea. Another chilly silence. Also, you said an exclusive. She raised her eyebrows as if to say, yes. That's a tall order right now. I supply a lot of stores in our area. She said nothing, and a lot of these small stores, these aren't just clients, they're friends, people I've known for years, and without whom his business would never have gotten off the ground. he could have added. Of course, she said, you've got an existing pipeline agreement and contracts. We assume there'd be a transition period, time for you to fulfill your current obligations and gracefully withdraw from future commitments. Work up new marketing collateral for our stores and so forth. Say 3 months? Jackson nodded numbly. Marketing collateral? He hadn't thought about that. Unexpectedly, Miss Waters' voice softened. I know it's a lot. She was silent again for a moment, though this time somehow the silence did not feel so chilly. Tell you what, Mr. Hill, she said after another moment, why don't you go back and talk with your people, see what you might be able to work out, and I'll go speak with the corner office here and about that underwriting idea. And then we'll meet again, okay? Say next Friday, a week from today. A week from today, exactly. The words that Bank offered had spoken to him that morning, only without the question mark. He stood up, reached over a desk, and shook hands. A week, he said. Thank you. You've got this, Jackson, he told himself as he slipped past Maribel's desk with a nod and mouth thank you. She was on the phone and showed him out the door. You are a successful businessman. You're going to close this deal. But it didn't feel like he was going to close this deal. And he didn't feel like a successful businessman. He felt like a man who just had been seen by the executioner. Gillian will be the next one. We'll read it tomorrow. I'm going to push stop and we're going to start the next book. If I can.